What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Countdown Scouting Network. I'm your host, Joey Garcia, and today we are getting into the edge rusher rankings for the 2024 NFL Draft. We have 24 guys on here. We'll kind of go through quickly. I just want to give you guys a quick update. We are going to bust through the edge rushers, defense, interior defensive line, and linebackers this week. Over the weekends, we're going to do cornerbacks, and then we will do safeties, my guys, and then the top 200. I think we're going to do 250 next week. That's going to be our big thing next week, and then I'll be going out on vacation, but I'm working behind the scenes to get something really special for you guys starting in April leading up to the draft. So I don't want to share too much of that because I don't want it to not happen, and then we're all disappointed, but I think it'll work. So I just want to let you know what our plan is throughout the next couple weeks. And going into April, it's going to be huge, exciting, and everything like that. So let's go ahead and get into these guys. So starting out, I'm going to pair the 20. Let me zoom in. I apologize. Should have done this beforehand, but let's put it to, yeah. There we go. Now you can kind of see. Let's go to number 24 and 23. We're going to pair these guys together. Myles Cole from Texas Tech and Tremont Morris-Brash from UCF. So Myles Cole from Texas Tech is a bigger body defensive end. He's about 280 pounds. He doesn't have that much explosiveness. He definitely doesn't have bend around the edge. But he does a good job with power rushing, and he kind of holds the edge on the run game. He doesn't. I'll say Myles Cole is less adept in the run game than I thought he would be at 280 pounds, and he doesn't play inside. He's not really a guy you can move inside. You got him maybe head up on an offensive tackle. It's probably the furthest inside you really want to go with him. So I don't really see much here other than maybe a guy who you can develop into being a goal line defensive end. So Tremont Morris-Brash is a little bit smaller than that, but he's also a guy who just doesn't have much bend or much explosiveness off the line. His arms are a little bit small. He doesn't really have too much of a pass rush plan either, and so that's kind of why he's down here. He's got a huge motor, and he just kind of has a knack for the ball, is one reason why I have him up here over Cole. But both of these guys, I don't really see much for them. So, but I had to include them on the list. I looked at them. There's a couple other guys who I didn't get to, like J.J. Weaver from Kentucky. I didn't get to look at. So, I just want to put them on here. The next guy, Steve Linton. We can even put Cedric Johnson in here as well. These are undersized defensive ends, but they have extreme burst, good finesse pass rush plans. They are not guys who will be goal lines, early downs, or anything like that. These are probably two guys who are strictly going to be on third and long situations where you want to get the Ferraris out there and just get after that quarterback. That's kind of what I see with Steve Linton from Texas Tech and also Cedric Johnson from Ole Miss, because they're both undersized guys. So Steve Linton is 6'5", 230 pounds. So he's got a bigger frame, like one that you would really like, but he's slender, he's thin. If it's a run and someone gets into his chest, he's just kind of done for. And then let me go to Cedric Johnson. He's 6'3", 260. So he's got more to him. His arms are just a little bit short though, but he's got very good burst and he's got very good bend for Cedric Johnson here. I don't think he's actually 260. On tape, he looked like he was 6'3". I think 6'3" is probably appropriate for him, but he's got smaller arms than that. But he's probably 6'3", 245. I didn't see 260 on tape. So I think he's probably closer to 245, and he really doesn't do much in the run game as well. Going to a guy who I really, really like his tape, these two Michigan guys, they are two different kind of players. So we've got Jalen Harrell. Let me pull up his size. I believe he's adequate. I think he's something like 250 pounds here. Should have had it pulled up beforehand, but yeah, he's 240 pounds. So he's about 6'4", 240. But man, he's got a really good pass rush plan. He's got a really good motor. He's okay in the run defense. I still don't think he's someone that's going to be an every down situational guy. I think he's a day three guy who you can have on special teams, be a nice special teams ace, and then also, he's someone that on third downs is going to be able to rush off that edge. He's got really good bend and finesse. He's not going to power through guys, but he's someone that has a hot motor and wants to do things. I love this kid. This is one of my guys. Um, Kind of think of like a James Houston from a couple years ago from Jackson State. That's kind of that vibe that I get from him. So the next guy is Braden McGregor from Michigan. He's a little bit bigger. He's 270 pounds and he's 6'6", 6'7", somewhere in that range. And he's a guy who I think is just inadequate. Again, another third round pick. He's just a guy who is okay in pass rush, okay in run block, and he's not going to wow you, but he did a decent job. Playing a little bit inside. He was a guy who they'd put in that four technique. Sometimes even slip him to a three on third downs and everything like that. But for the most part, he's going to play outside, and he's going to hold up the edge. That's probably his best thing is holding up the edge and run support. But he was surprisingly quick and had good hands and get off, getting around tackles on pass rush plans as well. So I think realistically, I would take him in the third round. I'd probably want him to be a special teamer and someone who on third develops into being on third downs, on passing downs. Have him slide inside so I can have three pass rushers and have him rush from that three technique, maybe four technique defensive line. So the next guy we got is Antoine Powell Ryland from Virginia Tech. Again, he's a bigger body, not a big body, but he's a 250 pound, 255, 60 pound edge rusher. So he's got good enough size. I think his arms are a little too short, and he doesn't have the bend that I really want. But he's just an adequate pass rusher that also is very fair in the run game. I don't see any deficiencies in his game. I just don't see anything that pops that I'm going to say, oh, at the next level, he's going to be this. He's probably a rotational guy at best, but I think he's someone that you would want on your team. I think that's a day three guy as well. Going to Xavier Thomas from Clemson. This is a five-star dude who just really never panned out to be this explosive athlete that he was really billed as. I think he's still an adequate guy. I think he's kind of in that Antoine Powell Ryland where he just doesn't have that bend, that explosiveness off the edge or anything like that, but he is adequate. I don't want to keep using the word adequate, but he really is. He's adequate in the passing game. He's adequate in the run game. Again, he's another guy who's probably your number three guy. And then this guy, Zion Tupuola Fetui. Tupuola Fetui. I'm never going to get that right on camera, but this is a guy who in our summer scouting we really liked as a guy who had a quick first step. And that was really it. He didn't really have the bend, but he had nice hands. He could get off of guys. He didn't really show much this year. I don't really know if he was injured. I can look to see if he's got good. Yeah, I mean, he was a guy who just really didn't pop. He played enough. He just didn't really pop on tape or anything like that. Yeah, and he just kind of struggles in the run game. He's a guy who's 255, 260 pounds. I thought he would hold up a little bit better in the run game than he did. But he's got enough there where again, this is another day three guy who I think could be, your edge three that you just have as a rotational guy. He plays 25% of your snaps and he plays on special teams as well. I think that's probably what he's going to be. So, and I don't really want to keep saying the same thing for everyone, but Nelson Caesar, he's a guy I probably should have put in with these other guys. I think he's a little bit more explosive than the other guys on this list, and I think he can develop into being more, but he's probably, a guy who's you're taking in the fifth round as a rotational guy, a special teamer. He's probably a core special teamer is how he makes the roster, and he can rotate your edge three, again, 20% of your snaps. He's someone who really I wouldn't want to put in a run defense. Anything where I know it's probably going to be a run, so first or second down. I would not put him on the field for that. I just don't think he can hold up against some of these bigger guys. Casey, come here. Get down. That's my cat, Casey. That's the one you guys usually don't see. Usually it's Griffin that jumps up here, the big boy, but nope, there's Casey. Just fed her. So, anyways, let's get to some fun pass rushers. So let's look at Muhammad Kamara, excuse me, from Colorado State, and Javon Solomon from Troy. These are two undersized, um, undersized pass rushers, but you know they've got so much bend, so much quick twitch, so much tenacity that as long as they dip their shoulders and they use their hands appropriately to swipe guys off, they are so fast. Kamara especially is so fast with his hands. I think Solomon probably needs to work on it just a little bit more. But these are two guys that are very explosive. And I really think they could do some damage out there. Again, not someone that I'd put out there on first and second down. I think these are two guys that'll start out as special teamers, as third down, just pin your ears back and go type edge rushers that'll help out your team. But a year, maybe 2 years into it, again, they don't have the longest arms, so that's always going to be a negative against them. But I think if they can swipe their hands properly and use that to their advantage, I think these are two guys that'll grow into the game and become much better, second edge on the team. They'll never be alpha, J.J. Watts and Myles Garrett's or anything like that, but they're guys that, if they hone their craft, I think them being on the other side of one of those alphas is a scary duo. I think they have something they can grow into that. We will pair the twins with each other, Gabriel Murphy and Grayson Murphy. I think Grayson is a little bit more twitched up than Gabriel, but I think Gabriel's pass rush plan and his understanding of how to use his hands, more efficiently, that's kind of why I have him above him. I think they're both probably third, fourth round picks. I think that they are both, again, they're probably I think they're 6'4", 260. They hold up well in the run game. They look like they love to get after the quarterback. Their motor is running hot. They're chasing guys down from the backside and everything like that. They are both really, I wouldn't say twitched up. They're not the most explosive athletes. I think Grayson's got a little bit more than Gabriel though. But there are guys that really have that motor and that want to, and they are adequate in the run game. I would say that I don't think that they're plus in the run game, but they're definitely not deficient in helping secure in the run game. So again, they're two guys that can play all three downs on defense. I think they can both play special teams as well because they've got that want, that motor, that headhunting mentality. So I think those are two guys who, if you get them in the fourth round, and they're your edge number two, and these are guys that I think have all the skills they can develop into being, that quality edge rusher that you really want as your edge rusher one on one side. He's going to lock down that side. They're probably going to have to double team. They're going to have to send, a running back to chip, a tight end to chip on this guy because they're going to be a little bit of a problem. And that's why this edge rusher class is just kind of, I don't want to say it's loaded because the top of it is just okay. You've got 3 to 4 guys that I'm like, these guys can be something. But then you've got from 5 down to 18, 20 that can be quality rotational guys. So let's go to Braylon Trice from Washington. Braylon Trice is a guy who I really, really loved. I had first round grade on him. And then he came in slow at the combine and small. He dropped like 25 pounds and was still very slow at the combine. And I had to go back and kind of look at the tape. And I was like, you could kind of see it on tape is that he's just not a great athlete. He does a really good job controlling the line of scrimmage. So I'll give that to him. And he does a good job with power to speed is what he really does a good job with. Just because anytime he just tries to go straight speed, he doesn't really have that burst, that first couple steps where he's gaining ground. It just doesn't really happen. So I still have him as a top 10 guy, and I don't have him as a first round talent anymore, but I still have him as a second round grade. I think this is a guy who, if he is actually 270 pounds, he dropped down to like 245 for the combine and ran slow. But if he plays at 270, he's someone that can move. I think he's strong enough. He can move inside, or he can be a nice, strong side end where he's just controlling the line of scrimmage. He's not a guy who's going to go out there and get 15 sacks. That's not him. 15 to 20 sacks is not going to be him. But he's a guy that might get you 7 or 8, and he's getting a couple tackles for loss, and they're having to double team him on run support, and he's still able to hold that line of scrimmage and draw out that running back to just delay him for a second longer so backside can get there, so corner can come up, so the safety can come up and kind of get on that edge. So I still really like him. His ceilings, again, not as high anymore just because if he didn't slim down and he ran the 4.7 that he ran, 4.78 or whatever it was at 265 pounds, something like that, I'd be like, okay. If he ran a 4.85 at 270 pounds, I'd be like, you know what, that's still pretty good. That's good. I like that. But the fact that he just dropped all that weight and still didn't run very well, I was a little concerned. So let's get to some of the guys who are a little bit more explosive and exciting. So this is Jonah Elliss from Utah. I'm a little concerned with his arm size. That's really the big thing I have with him. He's 245 pounds, but he's about 6'1". He's got smaller arms, but he's explosive enough that I think he, worst case, could end up being one of these guys like Muhammad Kamara and Javon Solomon. But I think best case is he can put another 15 pounds on, and instead of being 245, if he's 260, maybe you can slide him inside, and he can be, on a 3-4 defense, can kind of be one of those defensive ends that work a little bit inside there, maybe. Or maybe he's just a 4-3 guy, puts on a little bit of pounds, and he can play from that wide angle. But I'm concerned about his arms because he doesn't really have the bend that these other guys have. He's got quick first step explosiveness and everything like that, but he's not a guy that's going to help out in the run game. I think he's going to put on a little bit of weight, and that might help that. So I still think he's young. He's only 20 years old, so I think he'll put on a little bit more weight, probably end up playing at around 260, 265, and it'll all be okay. But again, he's a guy that his upside's limited as well, just due to his arm length. And then we got Marshawn Kneeland from Western Michigan. Let's kind of roll into these guys fairly quickly. So Marshawn Kneeland is 275 pounds. He's about 6'3", 275. His arm length is slightly smaller. I don't think it's going to matter because he's a guy who I really want to be able to move versatilely in that defense. I think he can play at a 7 technique. I think he can move all the way inside to a 3 technique. I think he's an explosive enough body with physical power at the point of attack. And he was playing at a smaller conference, so it's really hard to see how fast he truly is off the edge, but he looked twitched up. I will say that. So I don't think he's fully developed. He is 22 years old, but I don't think he's fully developed as in a pass rush plan, but he's got the physicality and he's got the size that you really want. His arm length is okay. It's not great arm length, but I think he's someone that you can move along that line. You can move him inside and everything like that. So I'm really excited about that. Chris Braswell from Alabama. Let's scroll to him. I have him here as 6'3", 255. So he's someone that at 255 is very, very powerful. I think he probably isn't as twitched up as some of the other guys on this list, and that's kind of why he's fallen down to 7. He's at 7. He's not as twitched up as some of these other guys, but he's very powerful, and he loves to go power to speed. And sometimes he'll even try to fake speed and then go straight to power. He likes mixing those two up back to back, and it works fairly effectively for him. He's pretty good in the run game at 255 pounds as well. So he's someone that I think has a very high floor, and I think he's got a pretty high ceiling as well. Let's show the top 6 as well. We won't go too much into these top 4 just because Everyone always talks about him. I talk about him in the first round of our drafts too. So Adisa Isaac is a Penn State pass rusher. He is opposite of Chop Robinson on there. He is 6'4", 255 pounds, and he's very, very explosive. He's twitched up. He's an elite athlete. I just think with him, I don't think he's there yet. Like, I don't think he's at the caliber that he wants to be. I think he knows how to use his hands. He has quick feet. He gains ground rapidly on those first couple of steps. He's super explosive, but he doesn't seem like he's filled out his frame yet. He kind of seems a little awkward whenever it comes to run support. So he's someone that I think is great in the pass game. And I think he just needs to get a little better. I don't know if that's putting on some muscle, but just kind of get a little bit more comfortable supporting the run. Darius Robinson from Missouri, we've talked about him a lot. He is because he killed it in the Senior Bowl process. He's I think 6'4", 6'5", 295 pounds. He's someone that I love because of his versatility. He's not the most explosive guy, and that's okay because he has a decent pass rush plan and he can go straight power on tackles at 295 pounds compared to these 320-pound tackles. That's not that much less of weight, and just straight into him while one's backing up. He does a really good job with rush to power. I don't know how far inside you want to put him, but I mean, shoot, if you know it's a pass play, I'd throw him all the way down into one technique. I think he'd be fine getting double teamed by a center and a guard on pass, and I think he'd do a pretty good job against it. Now, if it's in the run, obviously, I don't think that's probably great for him, but I'd be comfortable having him head up as on a guard on first downs. I think he's that good at run support, and I think he's that versatile. He's got good enough hands where I really, really like this guy. This is a defensive coordinator's dream versatile defensive lineman. I know we talk a lot about defensive backs that are versatile, that can play in the slot, they can play at safety, they can play outside on corner, and they can just roam around. This dude can do that, but on the defensive line, put him anywhere, and I think he'll succeed. Chop Robinson is the other Penn State guy. He's very, very explosive. He's got refined pass rush skills. He's probably got the third best pass rush plan in this class, I would say. But his arms are just a little bit short. It's a little concerning against the run. Again, these Penn State guys aren't great against the run, but I think he'll get better with that as he gets more comfortable. I'm just a little concerned about his arm length. Obviously, it doesn't show because I have him at number 4, but I think he's going to be a solid guy in the league. Let's go to Jared Verse from FSU. He's like 265, 270 pounds and has a really good pass rush plan, understands when to mix things up. Him and Latu, I'll talk about Latu as well in this. They're both not the best athletes, but Verse is really good against the run. I think he's someone that on third downs you can move inside a little bit too to get 3 pass rushers on there. Latu, you probably can't do that. You got to have him on the outside. Latu has shorter arms as well, but I don't think it's an issue. But both of these guys, Jared Verse and Leatu Latu, are guys that will, do a swim move and then do a swim move, and all of a sudden now you're like, oh, okay, he's going to that swim move. Fake a swim move, do a spin, and just be wide open. And they like to play that chess game and that head game with these offensive tackles. So I really like both these guys. These are 2 guys who I would take in the top 20. And then you go to Dallas Turner, super, super explosive. We knew going to the combine that he was going to be a super twitched up, explosive athlete, and that's what he is. He's the he is the most athletic out of all of these guys, and he's got a good motor. He's got decent hands. He still doesn't really know when to use them that much, but he's got decent enough hands, and he's okay in run support. But again, he's a younger guy. I think he's going to put on a little bit more weight. He's going to get a little stronger, a little more fundamental strength, where he can be a true all-around edge rusher. But right now, he's just explosive. Send that man after the quarterback. And I think he's an awesome guy. That's probably a top 10 pick. I think he's probably. I would put money down that he's going in the top 10. So I appreciate you guys watching. Tomorrow or Wednesday, we will be doing the interior defensive line. I think we got 24 of those guys as well. So it's a long, long list. But hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. If there's some guys that aren't on this list that you want to talk about, go ahead and put them down in the comment section below, and we can talk about some of those guys too. So appreciate you guys watching. Have a good day. Peace.